This mutation is called Grave Danger and is played on Temple of the Past. We have 3 mutators active. We have Transmutation, Void Reanimators, and Walking Infested. As usual, our resident mutation soloist will be soloing this mutation, and he will be doing it with P2 Fenix Network Administrator, 30 points into the Fenix Energy Regeneration Mastery, 30 points into the AI Vitality Mastery, and we have the optimization for starting supply here, the 327 split into supply cost, or the supply mastery, and the Chrono Boost improvement mastery here. So, P2 Fenix, this is going to be a pretty fun one to watch. We will hopefully see a lot of rage a lot over here, just absolutely murdering Amon's forces. Now, let us talk a little bit about the mutators. We have Transmutation, which is whenever enemy units deal damage, the amount of damage that is actually dealt to the unit will be converted into a percentage to cause the enemy unit to transmute up into higher tier units. You can get all sorts of hybrids being spawned over here. This one, I have known, there are some players in the co-op community, you know who you are, Pecky, likes to actually farm hybrids because of this mutator. We also have Void Reanimators. These ones are going to be wandering around the enemy map. Whenever you kill an enemy unit, there will be Void Reanimators that will be spawning around enemy structures, and they will actually start to resurrect the units that you have killed. And one thing that you should pay attention to is that they spawn from enemy structures. So if you are able to all clear the map, and on Temple of the Past, it's basically all the structures on these 3 lanes, which isn't particularly difficult, then that will stop the Void Reanimators from spawning. And then we finally have Walking Infested. So Walking Infested, whenever you kill an enemy unit, it will spawn some infested Terrans, and those infested Terrans as well. These things can actually transmute up as well, and like I said, like if you have these higher tier units, the newly transmuted units will also drop infested. So these 2 mutators interact. Actually, all 3 of these mutators interacting very, very well with each other. We already have the Warbringer out, and you can see the enemy composition here is going to be a Bio-Terran composition. So these Marines now are pretty much not going to be able to stand a chance against Warbringer. A little bit of a kiteback as well. Warbringer being added here as a tech choice just so that he can deal with these infested Terrans over here. And Warbringer will be moving forward as well now just to hold this lane down. So this is going to be a little bit interesting. Phoenix has already spawned, and he's going to start attacking these structures. So Phoenix uses his arsenal overcharge, and he's going to start clearing out these enemy bunkers and taking out these units over here. Then you will see that there's already a Void Reanimator that spawned. Now, if you get really lucky, what will happen is you will actually have Void Reanimators spawning in other areas of the map as you're killing stuff, and these Void Reanimators will actually end up getting stuck, which is actually very, very nice here. And you can see we have already a Transmutation that has come up here. We've had a Scout being formed, and you can see already being cleared out very, very effectively by Phoenix. And is there going to be an expansion taken? Yes, Phoenix is working away on his expansion. Rage-A-Lot is still not out yet, but that is also fine. One thing to note about Transmutation is that if Transmutation kills a heroic unit, like say for example Phoenix, he is a heroic unit over here, that will actually cause the enemy unit to transmute up all the way up to the maximum tier transmutation, which is either a hybrid dominator or a hybrid behemoth, the red hybrids, I think that's what they're called. Now, one thing to note is that if you're playing Phoenix, these units are also considered heroic, but they are not counted as heroic for transmutation. So if Amon is able to kill off your AI champion Shell, it'll count as a regular kill, which instantly gives you a transmutation for the enemy unit, but it does not give a maximum tier. So, you know, Zergling, for example, will go up to, I don't know, a Sentry or whatever is the next tier unit. I can't really think of, I'm not really sure what the next tier above a Zergling is, but it will not go from a Zergling to a hybrid Dominator for killing, you know, a Kaldalis or whatever. So that is something to also pay attention to. It does make life a little bit easier for P2 Phoenix, and yeah, P2 Phoenix actually can work out pretty well here. And you can see what's happening now. Phoenix has already cleared out this lane, which means no more Void Reanimators will be spawning on this lane, and Phoenix going to be working away here as well to clear this out. Phoenix is already ready and in position, so he's going to take out this hybrid destroyer over here, just giving his AI champions just a little bit of extra time to clear out the rest of these structures. I think there are 2, maybe 3 more structures left. Taldar and Warbringer doing a very, very good job at clearing this out, and very good utility of the Phoenix suits as well. Whenever he's not using the Solarite Dragoon, he's not in the Solar Red Dragoon mode, and he's just going to switch over here, and it allows him to regenerate his energy. He's going to be pulling back. He does not want these Marines to be drawing aggro and just taking hot shots at Fenix. So that is actually pretty nice. And that Phoenix is going to be moving over here, and he's sort of taking out these Void Reanimators. You can see 3 Void Reanimators already over here. I think that was 4 Void Reanimators, and they will end up dying. And now Kaldalis, Taldaran, and Warbringer will be pushing in to this enemy base. So we do have an Adept over here, which is an Adept Shell, so that might not be too wise, but Phoenix is going to jump in, and he's going to be able to take this out. And again, Taldaran and Warbringer able to start pushing into this area. And you can see we all have already taken care of... How is he doing actually on his Phoenix shells? He should be having a good number of shells. Okay, he has all his AI champions out. Still no shells available here. But remember, this is just the first Void Thrasher of this mission, so there's plenty of time. And you can see what Phoenix is doing over here. He is attacking with the shells. And generally, if you do this, you want to be very, very careful. You do not want to push these shells into any units that can fight back, because these shells actually have no HP. You can see this Legionnaire sitting at like 150 HP. Immortal sitting at like 150 Vitality. Like, even this Colossus only has 175 Vitality. These things melt and they don't even deal any damage. So they have a damage reduction debuff as well. So even though their attack shows something, their actual attack is very, very different. There's an attack right now that spawned here on Warbringer 2 that have absolutely no problems, just completely wiping this out. Unfortunately, there is one random Viking over here, but that Viking will end up getting cleared. Phoenix on the northern lane here, clearing this next attack wave out as well, which is really nice. Now the Rage-A-Lot is out, and Rage-A-Lot is going to start cutting through these rocks. Actually, funnily enough, all those rocks were actually safe, because Phoenix has been doing a really good job at clearing this area out here. So we have just one random Immortal just picking away at these rocks here. I'm pretty sure this is not the intent is not to expand here. Remember, when you're doing solos, especially mutation solos, they should be done on just your base plus your expansions. You're playing without an ally. So those are the rules for mutation solos. And actually, speaking of which, one thing I would do want to make a small mention of is that I had to ask for this replay file because there were no submissions for Grave Danger. So I think even the next week's mutation, I think it's Hostile Takeover. I have not received any submissions on Starcraft2co.com for casting. So if you were thinking of doing a if you were thinking of doing a run of those mutations, like, feel free to submit them, because that's pretty much almost a guaranteed cast, and they don't even have to be solos. Just hop in with a friend and just have some fun with the mutation. Obviously, I do prefer commanders that are not incredibly overpowered, but like I said, if you want to submit your replay, like, next week's mutation is still, as of the time of this recording, which is less than 8 hours before the mutation goes live on Asia, there are no submissions on StarCraft2co.com for Hostile Takeover, or whatever next week's mutation is. Go check it out. So if you do want to submit it, get your game casted, and you want to meme on some Amon, so the only rule is it's got to be a victory, and it's got to be on brutal difficulty. So those are the hard rules for the mutation cast. Obviously, if you're playing unfavored commanders, that is a little bit better. So if you want to do a little bit of inhumanity, that is also fine. But I do encourage people to try and submit their replays for casting. Otherwise, I'll just ask you to for one of his other mutation solos for next week's mutation. But yeah, so that is something to take note of. And now, yeah, these AI champions are going to be absolutely fine. What are we doing in terms of units over here? Yeah, we have a few of these shells out, but really nothing that like Phoenix is going to be struggling up against. His AI champions are so strong already in production. We have some more conservators, some more immortals as well in production. He wants to try and ramp up the damage output of those things. Now, one thing to also pay attention to is the utility of the AI champion shells. On StarCraft2co.com, there is a list on the Phoenix page that tells you the number of shells that you need to max out the tactical data web buff that is being buffed by P2 Phoenix. So it's like you need something like 7 Kaldalis shells and like 8 Adept shells or something like that. It gives you the exact number. So trying to get as close to those number of shells as possible is usually ideal. Certain champions benefit a little bit less from the shells than others. So for example, the one example I've usually been given is Clolarian. The tactical data web improves Clolarian's interdictor damage. Those are his special interceptor bombers that come out from Clolarian. So if you want to reduce the number of Kalarian shells that are available, because especially because Kalarian is really tanky, you may reduce those shells without really reducing his effectiveness. But shells like Caldalis, because their cleave attack, their empowered blades upgrade, is benefiting from their shells, and this cleave attack is applied to all the units around. Usually Caldalis is one of these guys that actually get a lot of benefit from it. Warbringers, for example, his Purification Blast is a little bit more frequent. You can see here, like, even though it may seem a little bit useless because he's attacking Marines, when you're dealing with a lot of hybrids, that Purification Blast is actually very nice to have. So Phoenix is going to slowly work away and clear out these bonus objectives here. So Phoenix is going to now recall some of his AI champions over, and he has an army of shells over here. The army of shells probably should be pulled back here. You have to be very careful when you're using these shells, because these things, cannot actually fight. There will be a lot of losses over here. You can just see how quickly they're able to melt. But very nice call here on Phoenix. He uses his cloak from his Cyber's Arbiter to, and because Amon's forces doesn't have any detection, those shells are actually able to get hotshots off on Amon's forces, and there is absolutely nothing that can be done here. And now you can see there's a Hybrid Dominator here, but the Hybrid Dominator is a detector, but gets melted very quickly with the help of Teldarn and Warbringer. Another drop attack as well, and Amon's forces are just going to jump right into the middle of the meat grinder. There is a Raven right now that has been used because the Ravens now will start to spawn in the attack waves, because Phoenix has used cloak units to attack Amon's forces, and that's just how the attack waves on this map work. So we have some more Colossi coming out, and you can see he's going for the full complement of upgrades. He's going for level 1, he's going for the level 3 attack upgrades for both his air units. He's also going for his shield upgrades here. And one of the things I did find kind of fun is going for armor and shield upgrades when I'm playing Phoenix P2, because you usually don't really need all the gas that you have available. Now, I will be honest right off and say that I do not play P2 Phoenix the way it is supposed to be played. I have a lot of fun playing with Rage a lot and with Dallas, and that is usually the only units I build when I'm up against a ground composition. And if I'm up against an air composition, I'll add in like Mojo and maybe one Kalarian. But that is pretty much it. I play Phoenix in a very incorrect way, but it's a lot of fun to play. And usually, because I end up flowing a lot of gas, I usually go for my armor upgrades as well, because, why not invest in the armor upgrades when you're flowing that much gas? But, like I said, do as I say, not as I do. AoE Master plays a very lazy game of go-up. He's a very lazy go-up player. So, we have some Conservator shields out right now, so these guys are just going to start charging it and just see what happens to Amon's forward. Like, it just gets completely melted by the AI champions here. And these AI champions are absolutely nuts. They are so ridiculously strong. Again, very nice use of recall over here. This is actually some really top-tier Phoenix play. Using the AI champions, using the shells when you have the ability to use them, and not just throwing them away randomly. It's very smart use of the AI shells, good use of the AI champions, uses of Phoenix's abilities and stuff. And you just see how effective Phoenix is at just moving around the map and just controlling every single area that it needs to be controlled here. So we have some more Rage-a-Lot shells and the Rage-a-Lot here, and these guys are just going to be going headfirst into the attack wave. Conservator shields being dropped right in advance here, and now these AI champions are going to start not only cutting through Amon's forces, but they're also going to have the 30% damage reduction from the shell here. So it's 35% damage reduction, which is even more insane. So Phoenix now just attacking this one Hybrid Dominator, and this Hybrid Dominator is pretty much gone. And so far, so good. Perfect temple run. I don't know if this is going to be a perfect temple run. It's going to be really difficult once you have the double Void Thrasher wave spawning. But there's now another drop attack coming up. And this drop attack, again, is just going to go right into the meat grinder that is Phoenix's champions. And I have seen some people like talk about P2 Phoenix, and they're like, oh, my shells are not very useful, my army units. This is how you should be playing P2 Phoenix. You should not be attacking with your shells. Your AI champions is basically like a buffed up level of Tychus Outlaws. You really do not need AI champions. You do not need the AI shells to do anything here. The AI champions are more than enough. Just completely handling attack waves and hybrids and everything. These guys are there just for reinforcements. And ideally, what you want to do when you're dealing with this is you put these shells close to the front line, but not at the front line, and you let your AI champions just start charging through. Fenix has cleared out most of this attack wave over here. There is a little bit of a problem here by the AI champion, but these guys will have absolutely no problems dealing with any of this. And Galdalis jumps in, just instantly takes out the Hybrid Dominator. There is a random Loki over here. Then okay, now we have another drop attack here. Now, unfortunately, these AI champions are these shells now are actually fighting with the AI champions, which is going to be a little bit of a problem because these drop attacks will start to focus these guys down. A lot of them in the orange. You can see how quickly they are able to. How quickly they just melt to Amon's forces, especially when you have Stim Marines. Stim Marines actually kind of hurt, so be very careful with that. And you do not want to end up feeding Transmutation unnecessarily unless you're someone like Picky who likes to farm hybrids. So we have Fenix over here now, and these AI champions are gonna be so this is probably not gonna be a perfect temple run. The Void Thrashers will be going away, I think. So now what Fenix is doing, he's just putting down cybernetic scores all over the place here just to tank and stop the attack waves from charging in and hitting the temple here. So he's going to take this thing out first. This Void Thrasher is going to go down very, very quickly. This one is going to be the trickiest of the waves to spawn. Like, notice the Conservator here. It has 40 vitality. These Conservators need to be left on the back line, otherwise bad things are going to happen to them. Over here now, there's an attack wave, and Fenix just slowly kiting through and just slowly taking out the rest of these units. Uses the Arsenal Overcharge, takes out whatever's left of the Siege Tank. Science Vessels will run away, not really too much of a problem. Some Archon over here as well, and now there's an attack wave that is coming up towards the central temple here. Fenix has recalled his AI champions back. He does have some of the shells are still left behind, and these guys are actually going to start ignoring these gateways when they start, because they're given an attack command towards the temple. But Fenix's AI champions are already in position, and they are just going to completely melt through this attack wave. Another Archon over here. There is a Loki over here. This Loki will almost definitely turn into a Hybrid Dominator, and the Hybrid Dominators now are going to face the wrath of the Rage-a-Lot, and that is the end of those Hybrid Dominators. Now again, there is another attack wave coming up over here, and there's also an attack wave coming in on the northern side. This is going to be, again, a little bit tricky. You do not want to feed Transmutation. Transmutation is one of those mutators that can spiral out of control. If you lose a grip on Amon's forces, they will start to transmute up and up and up, and you can see just Rage-a-Lot just completely getting wrecked here by Amon's forces, but he did not have any HP, so he's going to be making his way back here. And again, shells get moved away here, away from Amon's forces. These guys are going to start aggroing the rest of Fenix's structures, not really too much of an issue. The temple is going to be saved pretty much easily here. Unfortunately, the shells have started to engage this attack wave. This attack wave is starting to take these guys out, but I think that is pretty much the end of that. Over here, again, there are a lot of hybrids here, and they have just aggroed Fenix's structure, so he's going to be able to take that out. He's going to be moving back here now, and this temple is pretty much defended. Rage-a-Lot now, you just see how quickly he's able to just cut through this Hybrid Dominator, and he's just having absolutely none of it. And now Warbringer has also joined in. Once he starts focusing down these hybrids, everything else is pretty much going to die here. Some more stasis on these hybrids just to stall them a little bit, while the AI champion just starts going. Look at Galdalis go, man. He's just having absolutely none of it. There's another attack wave coming up over here, and Galdalis is just going to go and just cut through all the Marines over here. There's a Liberator that has sieged up, but again, Galdalis having absolutely none of it. There is a lot of Transmutation coming up over here. You can see how quickly this thing has just gone sideways, but this temple is pretty much going to be defended. Nothing is going to be able to stop these AI champions from going up over and over again, despite the large amount of inhumanity that will probably make JYK proud. But that is the temple defended, and that is GG.